right, Springfield's Morning News. Let's do a fact check on Governor J.B. Pritzker. Good morning. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And this deals with comments that were made at the Illinois Farm Bureau legislative roundtable with separate candidates Q&As with the Farm Bureau asking a variety of questions. Now, several times the governor was asked about some concerns a lot of people in southern Illinois have of a recent state law about energy that allows a private company to use eminent domain to lay transmission lines across the southern part of the state. So this is something that was discussed quite a bit last week during the gubernatorial forum where Senator Darren Bailey, the Republican candidate, and the incumbent Democrat, Governor J.B. Pritzker, were asked separately, brought onto stage. They provided various comments about things concerning agriculture. But when it came time and Bailey was first up, he provided some, opening statements for the farmers, talking about how he is a farmer, how he knows what's going on in the farming community and what's impacting them the most. But then for the Q&A, he was asked by the Illinois Farm Bureau President Richard Giebert about what exactly is going to be happening here with legislation that the governor signed last year dealing with energy that could impact some farmland in southern Illinois when it comes to energy transmission lines. So here's how that conversation went on Wednesday of last week. And go.
There was a provision that would allow the use of eminent domain to take private property for a project that is not a public utility. Do you support giving private companies that are not a public utility the right to use or to take private property?
I do not. I have 2 counties in my Senate district that are affected by that, and I stood on the Senate floor and I said there's a lot of things wrong with this bill. Number one, it forces coal out too early. Number 2, it forces natural gas out too early. Number 4, it makes our dependency on wind and solar too soon. But I said all that aside, if there was one reason and one reason alone why I would vote no on this bill, it would be because of the eminent domain clause. Friends, those days are over. And I'm going to tell you, from the other side of the aisle, the message that came back to me was, well, one of these days we may need to tie into that for our own needs. There's no reason why that line needs to cross our state to pump solar or to pump coal-fired energy from Wyoming to the eastern seaboard. We should be providing that.
So again, the Republican candidate for governor there, Darren Bailey, providing some comments of his thoughts on the provision of the Clean and Equitable Jobs Act that the governor signed, a law that does a variety of things, pretty wide sweeping. It would aim towards closing coal-fired power plants by 2035. It would limit the use of natural gas power. It would also allow for a bunch of investment in wind and solar and so on. But again, I think, President Giebert's question here is really what I want to focus on, because you got to understand, when people go to answer questions, sometimes they don't actually answer the question. So let's hear Richard Giebert's question again and get a bit more of an understanding, a crystallization of what exactly he's looking for when having this Q&A with the gubernatorial candidates.
There was a provision that would allow the use of eminent domain to take private property for a project that is not a public utility. Do you support giving private companies that are not a public utility the right to use or to take private property?
So again, that's the question. He does ask a similar question to the incumbent Democrat, Governor J.B. Pritzker, and we'll get to that in a moment. But what he's talking about is a provision in the 900-plus page Clean and Equitable Jobs Act that the governor signed last year that deals with some issues of eminent domain. It states that if a qualifying direct current project going across Pike, Scott, Greene, Macoupin, Montgomery, Christian, Shelby, Cumberland, and Clark counties can show that it's designed to deliver electricity, then it can be taken for public use. So you've got that language in the law, the Clean and Equitable Jobs Act, and something that wasn't really addressed much whenever Governor J.B. Pritzker then took to the forum, and in his opening statements went directly after the Republican challenger in this case. And let's get this pulled up, and we'll get this going. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Check that out. That's a good jive there.
Darren Bailey is lying to you about a few things. There's nothing in the energy bill that makes it easier to impose eminent domain. Nothing.
Again,
absolutely nothing.
Is that the case? Is that truthful? And just looking at the language, it says that a company that does an electric line, a private utility, could indeed be determined and deemed for public use, but it's not something that is ultimately going to be used by the public in Illinois, because this transmission line, it's going to be taking wind power, I think, from like Kansas. It's an 800-mile transmission line, and it's got 200 miles for areas of southern Illinois that it's hoping to go through to then transfer the energy from Kansas to a different part of the country, not necessarily Illinois. And as Darren Bailey stated in his comments, he was told that, hey, at some point we may need to plug into this. But it's not immediately for that. So Governor Pritzker making the statements before being prompted that Darren Bailey is not telling the truth about this. Again, here is Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Darren Bailey is lying to you about a few things. There's nothing in the energy bill that makes it easier to impose eminent domain. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So the governor was then explicitly asked by the Illinois Farm Bureau President, Richard Giebert, about this issue. And again, listen to the Farm Bureau President's question, and we'll hear the governor's response immediately thereafter.
There was a provision that would allow the use of eminent domain to take private property for a project that is not a public utility. Why do you feel that this project that is not a public utility should have the right to take private property?
That provision was removed from the bill before it passed. There is not an eminent domain provision in the bill that allows the state to take property under an eminent domain any more than there was before there was a Climate and Equitable Jobs Act.
So again, the governor's response, not about this particular project and why such a project should be allowed to use eminent domain. He just blatantly says that that provision was taken out, but it's not. It's in the measure that the governor signed. He then was later asked by members of the media if he wants to clarify that. And in particular, members of the media pointing out the Grain Belt Express is a project that seems to be laid out in the Clean Energy Jobs Act. And here's the governor's response to that line of questioning.
I'm talking about, what I heard was eminent domain, and that's really got taken out of CEJA at the very last day or two.
But the Grain Belt Express, do you know any of that for the transmission pipeline?
Again, I was talking about eminent domain broadly, so.
So the governor deflecting, not talking about the particular project, but talking more, quote, broadly about eminent domain. Well, the governor was then asked Friday outside of the DuQuoin State Fair if he regrets calling Darren Bailey a liar. And here's what the governor's response was to that question.
Darren Bailey did not tell the truth about eminent domain. Darren Bailey said that there is a massive change in statewide ability of the state to declare eminent domain. That's just false.
But again, the measure does give the private project a way to utilize eminent domain in certain areas where private land is needed. The Grain Belt Express, the company behind that, and Venergy, they said that land acquisitions will be minimal. And it's got support from the Manufacturers Association, but a lot of farmers are concerned about this. I had a Southern Illinois farming family reach out to me last night and said that they indeed have filed with the Commerce Commission They promised that they would do that before the end of the summer. So Invenergy has filed, apparently, according to a Southern Illinois farming family who has concerns that they'll be directly impacted by this. And again, it's something that's in the law explicitly about a energy transmission line possibly being declared for public use, which could lead it to being triggering eminent domain. So Bailey, he put out a statement saying that if JB is comfortable walking into a room and lying to the faces of working people about this, how can he be trusted to tell the truth about anything? I'm focused, Bailey said, on honest leadership that identifies problems, brings people to the table, and finds solutions to make Illinois safer and more affordable for everyone. So that's a little bit of a fact check here, and let you make up your mind as to who's being honest in this conversation about the energy bill and the possibility of this energy transmission line taking private property through, possibly triggering eminent domain.